This video is brought to you by Surfshark. Stick around to hear more about the discount that they're providing to the entire upper echelon community. Okay, today is a topic that has been requested heavily, many times, and that is an indie spotlight. Here's the thing though, I'm not doing a review in this indie spotlight like I have most other times, because I haven't played the game. This is the furthest thing from an actual review you could have, and that should be stated flat out, point blank, at the very beginning of the video. I'm not reviewing Lemnis Gate. I'm talking about the concept and highlighting what I believe might become a brand new genre in gaming. Think of it this way, before Aeon of Strife in 2002, I think it was, MOBA games just didn't really exist. The genre was obviously popularized by Dota, a community mod from Warcraft 3, but before Aeon of Strife, it really just wasn't a thing. How about MMORPGs? Hugely popular, universally recognized as one of the cornerstones in all of gaming, MMORPGs didn't really exist before The Realm Online, I believe. Not mass media online games, massively multiplayer online role-playing games. Aria Realty, you absolute clown. And that's also an issue of technology, but that would be a whole separate video. Of course, that particular game would not go on to be the most popular MMORPG in the entire world. Such a title would eventually be claimed for a lengthy period of time by World of Warcraft, but as I stated earlier, all of the genres we know and love today, at one point, didn't exist. That's a pretty obvious statement to make, but hear me out. As gaming technology improves, we have started to see a tremendous amount of replication. Entire mainstream studios have doubled down on annualized business models that simply reskin an existing concept every single year. Ubisoft or Activision Blizzard are best known for this, but the lion's share of all video game releases, especially at a high level with, decent graphics and good development and lots of resources especially, now fall into tightly defined genre categories. You have FPS, MMO, RTS, RPG, side-scroller, hero shooter, platformer, and the list goes on and on and on. One of the most recent genre innovations would have to be Battle Royale, I would say, and look how massively popular it has become as companies piled into the race to create something that was actually new and as of yet fairly undefined in the space. Of course, these days, the Battle Royale market is dominated by a few big names like Fortnite, Apex Legends, and Warzone, but in the grand scheme of the entire industry, it's a relatively new thing. My point is, genre innovation and truly unique games are hard to come by. Most everything that launches now will either be a tried and true formula, which is the most common, with different individual mechanics, or it will seek to blend two or three of these existing categories together. An easy example would be maybe Hunter's Arena, which took the early leveling experience and combat fundamentals from the MMO genre, kind of, and tried to make a hybrid title with a Battle Royale framework. I actually thought it was quite fun, but sadly it's a pretty dead game at this point. All of this is a really long-winded but kind of necessary way of establishing my position for this video, which is that Lemnis Gate is an as of yet undefined game genre. On a surface level, it might seem like it draws from hero shooters or FPS titles or even auto chess, but in reality, what they've done is taken the entire concept of time and turned it into a strategy-based genre in and of itself, which in my opinion will either cause it to become a mainstream title alone or spawn a horde of copycats, and that's the most likely, out of which a new contender will rise and become the most popular, competing with other big PvP titles in the space. Pause. Sponsor. Question. Why would you want to change your geographic location and have a layer of security above your own IP address? Rhetorical. Answer, because you can bypass regional censorship, circumvent location-specific licensing contracts. Example, you can have a much larger selection of entertainment shows on Netflix or other sites. You can protect yourself from data harvesting and collection by big tech, and so much more. VPNs don't just protect your IP, they protect your entire online browsing experience, top to bottom. These are just some of the benefits when it comes to a VPN, and I'm happy to say that Surfshark is offering 83% off and 3 full months free if you click the link down below right now and use promo code Echelon. Again, that's 83% off and 3 full months free using the link down below in the description and code Echelon. Big thank you to them for sponsoring the channel. Okay, with all that said, let's establish what Lemnis Gate even is, because what it is, above all else, is difficult to explain with actual words. Lemnis Gate is a time manipulation game where competing players utilize the same 25-second loop, alternating back and forth, in order to control a map and fulfill different objectives. That might sound strange or not like an entirely new genre, so let me be much more clear. I've looked into the title quite a bit and have plenty of gameplay to draw from, but I've not played the game myself, so keep that in mind. It all starts on a blank map where, for example, you need to retrieve objects and bring them back to your gate. The first player spawns and runs through a blank map with no enemies to be seen anywhere, and secures an objective or puts down traps, whatever they choose to do. Now is the part that matters. After they have laid down their 25-second path, the other player is allowed to spectate their actions and then spawn in with their own character. This time, the actions of the other player for 25 seconds that they just made and did are played out by an automated drone. The second player can shoot, kill, poison trap, whatever it is. There are various characters that can snipe or set turrets, etc., etc. The second player now attacks that existing copy, which is playing out its 25-second action queue, or gets an objective, or does whatever they want, really. Then it flips back. The first player spectates again and chooses how they want to play, dropping in with now 2 player character copies running through a preset action queue, and can attack the most recent copy or even defend their own previous copy, which could even save it from death. This is where it gets really hard to explain, but I'll do my best. As you alternate between turns, the map fills up with player copies that are actually battling each other through the concept of time. You are very much able to utilize flick aiming and traditional FPS gameplay tactics, but you are actually fighting someone that is interacting with a long chain of other consequences, which in turn affect what characters and what 25-second action queue live or die. Let's say on turn 4, when the second player goes, there will be 2 enemy player clones and 1 friendly. They actually kill both of the enemy units, which had in turn killed their unit shortly after. They do it by sniping across the map or something like that and get them right away. Well, this means that the dead friendly character isn't dead and continues through its action queue. This layer upon layer of 25-second iterations that can continue whether or not the character lives to what extent is built upon to such an incredible degree. Every single action ripples through the actual concept of time, redefining how the match unfolds right down to the final round. I can't find anything even remotely similar to this game anywhere else in the entire industry. You could say, oh, there are heroes with powers and guns, FPS and hero shooter therefore, which is technically true and would be best described as taking popular concepts that work and incorporating them, but I have never seen a single game implement the active 25-second shared multi-use time dilation concept or anything similar in my entire life. If it's out there, I apologize to the devs of that project, but I couldn't find it. This is an entirely unique concept in my experience, which would, by every metric I can personally think of, fit into its own separate genre of video game. I don't know what it would be called per se, maybe a shared time arena shooter or STAS, something like that, but from a conceptual level, it is incredibly innovative, and I am watching like a hawk for the first possible opportunity to play it. It is actually 4-dimensional, kind of. You aren't just fighting what you see, you are fighting what you don't see as well. You are fighting what has been there, what isn't there yet, what might be there, and reacting to every decision your opponent makes while they fight you the same way, not only across the barrier of traditional reactive gun battles or reflex aiming, but through the literal concept of time. What you do before, especially, and even after your death matters a great deal. You can save a character 3 turns later, rendering their actions valid again in the final stages of the round, and these actions, like throwing shields or turrets or mines, might then save other characters you played as, allowing their turns to play out, where they speed rush objectives and ultimately win you the game. You are fighting with all of the traditional FPS elements in place, like literally all of them, while radically expanding how combat even works, in a way that I find difficult to even adequately articulate. The developers have stated that causality is a gameplay pillar here, because bullets you fire at the start affect every subsequent round. You are literally teaming up with yourself from alternate time segments, using your own actions to protect and attack alongside more versions of you, in a way that has more strategic depth than practically any other game I have ever seen in my life. The crazy thing is, and one of the reasons why this, in my opinion, will become its own genre entirely, is that this fundamental causality framework and time manipulation battlefield can be used in probably any existing FPS game mode on the planet. It can be done for heists or domination or King of the Hill. It can be done in other existing genres as well, like ARPGs or especially MOBAs. It could have some cool applications in MOBAs. And it can be used as an addendum to existing concepts, kind of how genres get used nowadays to begin with. This flexibility extends to even the core loop cycle. You can have players add copies in with staggered individual slots, or, as the game actually includes, you can have them add characters in at the same time, which then creates every single bit of the traditional FPS and hero shooter experience with an added layer of past, present, and future causality, allowing for a battle to become something well and truly beyond any other genre in the industry right now. Time travel or time manipulation is not a concept that works well in a lot of games or movies, at least not in my opinion. It becomes often convoluted and nonsensical. As a result, a lot of games have purely focused currently on the moment-to-moment interactions between different players, which is like a horizontal slice of paper in a towering mountain of additional sheets. That one slice is shared, and it works right now, but you can have more of them, and they can exist simultaneously, somehow compressed into that one sheet. Lemnis Gate is trying to actually take the concept of time and add it to the equation in a way that hasn't been done before. I am incredibly excited to play it, but what I want to see even more is how this idea could proliferate through the entire industry and be used to modify the experience of so many other titles and modes into an entirely new, for lack of a better way to phrase it, even though it might not be specifically accurate, a new four-dimensional experience. All in all, it's worth an indie spotlight in a bit of a different way, based purely on concept and innovation. It was an indie game, or it is an indie game worth watching, and it serves as a stunning example of why the indie space is probably going to be the savior of gaming, while large publishers continue to creatively stagnate. Honestly, just think of the implications here. You could do this with like a racing game where you have a shared track and a shared like snapshot of time where you're adding race cars in that like pit maneuver each other and, you know, take the inside track at certain times or get in front of somebody else and use their brakes or whatever. And you're kind of creating this racing team competition with shared time. That's the core premise here, right? You have this central set of time that players share together and then add things into it that move. It really does sound kind of like auto chess, but it isn't. But anyways, that's it. If you want support, there are links down below. Odyssey, which is a YouTube platform alternative. Locals, $5 a month for completely ad-free versions of all the content. Another gaming YouTuber to check out. Merch, social media, etc., etc. But I'll cut it down and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.